YouTube above average Cody here, coming at you with an updated controller settings video post March update here on Halo Infinite. The March update called for some subtle tweaking of the controller settings, and with me playing on a completely different controller than the last video being, I think, about 6 months ago, it was time to do another full best controller settings video for Halo Infinite. So let's get into all of that and more. Subscribe, leave a like, guys, and show some love down in the comments. Now, right off the start here, guys, we're going to talk March update and why things may be feeling a little bit different for you in the controller settings department, and then we'll get into my controller setup, changes I've made to my settings to improve my gameplay overall, and then we're even going to talk a little bit about the graphics settings post this big March update and network change. Now, diving right into what I felt post-March update, guys, things felt just a teeny tiny bit slower. When I jumped in and did my first Octagon against the bot post-March update with the new network, guys, it just felt slow. It didn't feel right. It felt like I was a little bit like draggy with my reticle. So what I did was I just raised my sensitivity a little tiny bit. I actually ended up going up a half a value. I tried one full value. It felt like a little too much. So instead of 4 and 5 on the horizontal and vertical, I actually went up to 4.5 and 5.5. Very subtle change. You can also achieve this by adjusting your FOV a few digits. You could change your look Excel. You could even toy with your center dead zones on the look stick, even dropping it a little bit. All of these could remedy by making it feel that little tiny tick faster. A lot of people are saying that it feels like way different, but I really do not think so. It just feels a little teeny tiny bit slower. So make a tiny adjustment, give it a day or two and see how it feels, and then I would actually go from there, because when I made this change, it actually felt a little bit fast on day 1, and then once I got to day 2, day 3, it felt much more comfortable like what I had previously. So that's really, guys, that's all I want to cover post-March update. Those are what you should be expecting feeling from your controller settings, at least from my point of view, and then that's the change that I made to remedy it, and now my controller settings feel, for me at least, almost identical to what it felt like prior to this week's update. Now, I have always run an Xbox Elite Series 2 for all of my Halo gameplay. I love the paddles. I love the feel of this controller. However, the stick started to get a little bit loose, a little bit too loose. My paddles on the right side started contacting not very well, so these are my jump and slide buttons. They just weren't working good, and of course, guys, the very common bumper issues on the Elite. So it just got to a point, and this lasted me over 2 years, it got to a point where it just really wasn't, for me at least, it wasn't viable to continue using it as my main gaming controller. So enter the SCUF. You guys remember I bought this to give it a try, to compare the two. I did do a video comparing the two. I'll link it down below in the description. But this has been getting me by. I run it exactly the same. Control Freaks, raised right stick, paddles, AB on the right, XY on the left, so that I don't have to take my finger off it. The reason I have to mention the controller, guys, is these sticks are so much more solid and smooth for aiming, especially in a game like Halo Infinite, where those fine movements up to hit people in the head when they're one-shot. Very, very I don't want to say easy. It's never easy. I'm not going to say you're going to buy this controller and instantly be better, but aiming feels much more comfortable on this controller. Diving into my overall settings, because these do look quite a bit different from my last settings video, guys. First, all of these up here are completely the same. My button layout is custom. I run a very Call of Duty setup. So left trigger zoom, left bumper grenade. You can actually see most of it over here. And, you know, jump, slide, AB, right stick is melee, very much what I call the Call of Duty layout. Everything here is the same. Hold to crouch, hold to zoom, guys. Less button presses for all of these mechanics, because instead of pressing it again to come out of your crouch, you're just holding the button down and letting it go. I do keep maintain sprint on because a lot of skill jumps and things like that, you hit the ledge running and it makes it a lot easier. Auto clamber I have off in case I jump a ledge and I don't want to automatically clamber up onto the ledge. And then you always want to have step jump on, otherwise you are always jumping the max height, and you don't, if it's a low ledge, you don't want to be jumping a full max height because you're just in the air longer and it can take longer to rotate, everything of the sort. Zoom reset, guys, I run Legacy. Again, this is all the same as last settings video. Now, my sensitivity and acceleration, I did a lot of fooling around in this. So, I started playing some Call of Duty here and there, and I got back on Halo, and it just felt way, way too slow. And obviously, I always ran it slow, so I did a better job at those kind of touchy gunfights, you know, those fine aim movements. They came really hard for me on Halo Infinite, so I ran the lower sensitivity. But now that I have a better feeling for the game, a better, I guess, overall stature and FPS altogether, I was ready to go up on sensitivity, and it has improved my gameplay so much, guys, because it's a little less focusing on holding my aim and a little more focusing on snapping to enemies faster, you know, being more like a human turret. And more importantly, with the bandit fights, guys, you can definitely turn on somebody that is shooting you on the back. So if you have a very low sensitivity, it makes that very hard. So what I'm running now is a 4 look Excel. I think I ran 2 or 3 for quite some time, and I'm at 4.5 and 5.5. By no means is this insanely high sensitivity, but it's a lot higher than what I was running. I still stand by running the lower sensitivity until you get a good feel for the aim on Halo Infinite and you kind of stop windmilling and you're able to control your reticle. But once you get through that, I definitely think the mid to high sensitivity is absolutely crucial, especially once you get to the higher ranks, guys. This very much lets you move that reticle very quickly, become that human turret, and most importantly, give you an opportunity to turn on some enemies and hopefully win some gunfights that you probably wouldn't be winning if you were down in the 2 to 3 range like I was for quite some time on this game. So 4, 4.5, 5.5. Look Excel, of course, accelerates that reticle faster if you're turning a long distance. This makes it so that even if you're on a low sensitivity, it can ramp up faster if you have a higher value. And then 4.5, 5.5. It's just what I'm really liking right now, guys. And I have to mention, find what's comfortable for you. Sure, you can copy and paste these and they might work for you, but I guarantee you're going to have to do some tweaking. Just play with some stuff, make some subtle changes, and make more changes as needed. But only you know what's comfortable for you and your controller setup. Now, zoom level, sensitivity, guys, always keep this default. I do not ever change any of them. Some people swear different, but I swear by just keeping the muscle memory and always keeping everything on the 1x multiplier. Because, again, it's muscle memory, guys. It's whatever you're comfortable with. If you've always been playing on 1.5, then by all means, you're probably comfortable on 1.5. But I've always played on 1, and I plan to leave it on 1 probably until the end of Halo Infinite. Trigger dead zones, all default, 0.55, 0.55. Don't need to play with these unless you're having trouble with your triggers, charging up the plasma pistol, keeping the commando full auto, anything of the sort. Onto the dead zones, guys. Very, very important. These values are all over the place. Do I have a perfectly full explanation for everything on here? No, I do not. But we're first going to start with the move thumbstick, guys. My center dead zone is 5.5 because this is what kept drift off my Elite controller, right? I could probably go lower now that I'm on the scuff, but frankly, I've been too afraid to mess with it. My strafe's been good, my aim's been good throughout my strafe, and I've been doing a good job left stick aiming, so I really do not want to change any values here. The max value on the max input threshold is the only thing I would recommend. You want it all the way up except for one circumstance, right? So the higher the value, the more responsive or the faster your left stick will respond to the maximum input, right? So say I want to go full sprint straight. To do that, most times, if I have this on the lowest value, I have to push it all the way up. I got to go max, right? Instead, with a higher max input threshold, it will actually register it faster, which means it might register the max input way down here. So essentially, you're hitting that max sprint quicker. And you can even see in the description here, guys, lower value increases the variance in the acceleration curve, right? So the lower the value, it just takes you longer to get to that max input. Long story short, higher value, you hit that max speed strafe ever so slightly faster. So if you feel like you're kind of strafing quicksand or something, you might have this value low. Just make sure it's all the way up so you know that you're getting your fastest strafe possible. Onto the look thumbstick, guys. I am very touchy with my look thumbstick. Dead zones. Max input threshold, I run at 6. Axial, I run at 6. I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. People told me to run these values. I put them on, and I love them. It makes the look feel buttery smooth. If you have not played with these two settings or you have not found anything comfortable, I will say to try 6.6. I'm not saying it's the best setting, but when I tried these, it just made it feel so smooth and not jumpy and not like I'm aiming underwater, or however you want to put it. The center dead zone comes down to how well you are able to control your right stick, especially with the finer movements, right? So the dead zone is the area in the center of the stick where it is not registering movement. Ideally, we're sitting in the dead zone right now, right? Your controller should not be moving. Your stick should not be moving your reticle if you are not moving it, right? If you go to a 0 dead zone, the moment you touch that stick with the tiny dead zone, you will be out of the dead zone, right? It'll start registering movement. But if I go to a big dead zone, say like max value, I might be able to wiggle the stick a little bit and it won't register the movement because that dead zone is now bigger. So that area of no movement or no registration, the dead zone is not being picked up, right? So the lower you have this value, guys, the quicker your right stick is going to react. And this is something a lot of people underestimate when they're having trouble either controlling their reticle, those fine movements like snapping up to the head. A lot of it doesn't necessarily come down to sensitivity, left stick aim, or anything like that. It can certainly come down to your center dead zone. So if you have not played with this, definitely think about what I just explained and think about how this can help you out, right? So notice I don't run this on 0 because I want that little bit of give in the stick because I hold my controller pretty tight. So if I run this value at 0, when I'm like really gripping my controller, those little subtle like movements I may not even be knowing that I'm making with the right stick will start registering and it'll respond so quick that the quick little bump of the stick can throw off my aim ever so much. So if you're having trouble with that, try a slightly higher value. Don't do anything extreme. I wouldn't go too high. But honestly, guys, if you're having trouble with those fine little tiny movements, but you think your sensitivity is really good, try bumping your center dead zone on the Lux thumbstick up a few values. I may not have given the best explanation of it, but trust me, guys, I'm sure somebody in the comments will be going crazy on me with a bit of a better explanation. If so, I'll heart react it. But I promise you, try playing with your center dead zone if you're having trouble with your fine aim movements, and thank me later. All my button presses, guys, are pretty much default. The only reason it says custom, again, to the Call of Duty layout or whatever it calls it on the game, I changed my D-pad. I adjust the ping and my switch grenades to the top and the left so that I can switch grenade right here on the left so that I don't have to reach down too far away from the left stick. I just reach down to the ones that are closest, so it's just one quick little thumb movement down. Up is ping, so I just go bonk, and then I come back right up to my left stick to keep moving. If I want to switch grenades, I just reach right down here, hit the left, and then I'm off to the races. Those are the only two changes I have off of default is my ping and my grenades, so my grenade switching. But again, that is all personal preference, and I believe they actually call this button layout. It might just be default on Halo Infinite nowadays. I think default is the Call of Duty settings. I just call them that because it's the settings that I ran all the time on Call of Duty. So guys, that is all my controller settings. That is the controller setup. Onto field of view. Everybody always asks this in the controller settings videos, guys. I run 97 field of view. I refuse to change it. I used to play 100. I used to play 105. I even tried 120 for a little bit, or 115 when the Bandit came out. It felt a lot better with the Bandit. It felt like I literally had like aimbot levels of aim assist, but for some reason, I still just shoot more accurately and feel more comfortable on 97. So if you're having trouble with the Bandit and you're on low FOV, I do recommend trying a slightly higher FOV, maybe 110, 115 and 120 might be too high for some, but I swear by 97, and I refuse to change it, guys. And the reason I want to briefly address graphic settings is many of you already know I run all low settings here. Everything on low. Everything. I don't care. And the reason is this game looks amazing on low graphics, which is really rare. A lot of times you have to compromise and give up some of your frames so that you can run that higher graphics just so the game looks bearable and has some color. I'm looking at you, Call of Duty. Call of Duty games nowadays look awful on low graphic settings. But you can run all low, depending on your system, of course, guys. I have a pretty decent PC. You guys saw I have a 3070 in here. So a very decent build PC. So this definitely varies. But across all aspects, it seems like the game looks pretty good on low settings. And you can see how much more VRAM I have to use here. But long story short, with the March update, I am noticing more frames in across just about every map, maybe 15 to 30 extra frames than I was getting. Is this the network? Did they change something else? Or is my computer just running like a Greek god post update? I have no idea, but I want to mention this because I've been considering going up on some of the graphic settings that actually have value, like on the character models and some things that maybe don't load in very quickly, just so that it looks a little bit better, a little bit more pleasuring on stream and to my eyes playing the game, and I'll be at about the same amount of frames that I was prior to this update. I don't know if I will do that because, again, I swear by going low. If you don't already know, it's pretty much graphic settings, frames. If you want really good graphics, you're going to take a hit with frames. If you want really good frames, you generally go low on the graphics, which is what I do, or you can kind of find the middle ground, which is where you want to watch some videos on optimization for the graphic settings so that you have good graphics or decent graphics, but also decent frames, and you kind of find that middle ground. Personally, I'm a big frames guy. Does it help that much once you're already past like 150 frames? Not really. I just prefer it to be as smooth as possible, especially when I'm playing on stream. Turn off blur, turn off screen shake. You guys should already know all this stuff. Sharping at 60, speed lines, personal preference, whatever. But guys, I think that is pretty much every single thing. What else do people ask for? People always ask for the weapon offsets, minus 100 or negative 100, negative 100, positive 100. This is what I run for everything, guys. There's the offsets, and I think that now covers everything. So, guys, those are my controller settings. Again, I've run higher sensitivity, and I've twisted my dead zones up since the last video because I'm on a different controller. The big dead zone change came once I switched controllers. I do hope to someday go back to an Elite once I have some spare money so I can buy an Elite core. But right now, money's been tight, life's been crazy, so I have been playing on the Scuff. So until then, these are going to be my controller settings. Again, a little bit faster, but everything else is pretty much the same. So guys, please, I want to hear all of your thoughts post-March update. How are your settings feeling? What tweaks have you found make them feel comfortable again so that people don't just have to take my advice. People can hear from you guys down below that have kind of got your settings dialed back in, so hopefully they can get theirs dialed back in ever so much faster. But guys, subscribe, leave a like. I already mentioned leaving a comment. Please, it helps out the channel so much. I've been doing my best to keep up with the normal stream of content. I've just been so busy, man. Outside of that, channel memberships and super thanks. If you'd like to support monetarily, it helps me out ever so much as a content creator, and maybe I can run out and get a new Elite pretty soon. But please, do not feel like you have to. But alrighty, guys, hopefully this one helped you out. It was pretty highly requested for me to do another controller settings video. And there it is. I hope it helps you guys get your stuff dialed in so that you can start frying in this March update. Alrighty, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay tuned for the next video.